Call the WSESD School Board meeting to order at 6:01. So the first thing that I think I need to do is move two things to the top. The first one is under unfinished business. That is the number C. That'll go first, and then under new business, letter A will go next. And I think that's the only change that we had. So we'll do that right after we'll do that after the consent agenda. Okay, so do I have a motion to approve the minutes from December 14th, January 25th, March 8th, March 10th, and March 15th?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor of approving the minutes?
I have a couple of items. On March 8th, I was not there, so
Okay.
I could abstain from March 8th. And on March 10th, I was there, but I wasn't in the minutes.
Okay, Wendy?
Got it, thank you.
Okay, so all those in favor of the minutes as stated, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Okay. So now on to the warrants of March 7th, 2022 in the amount of $157,472.16, and warrants of March 14th, 2022 in the amount of $966,266.42, and payrolls from March 11, 2022 in the amount of $1,380,511.03. Do we have a motion to approve?
So made.
Do we have a second?
I second.
All those in favor of approving the warrants and the payroll, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, so now,
Madam Chair, I have a question.
sure.
On the motion to approve the minutes, did Mr. Murphy abstain or not?
He abstained from the
March 8th.
March 8th.
Okay, because that wasn't a separate motion. How do you want me to indicate that?
Okay,
in
so
the-
do we need to redo that vote? So all those in,
Maybe I'm making it more complicated. That's what we always did at the District 6 Board. If you weren't there, then you abstained. So I'm not sure about the protocol.
okay, so how about we just redo the vote, and then we'll make sure that we're covered. So all those in favor of approving the minutes of December 14, January 25, March 10, and March 15, please signify by saying aye. Any opposition? All those in favor of approving the minutes from March 8th, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition?
Abstain.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
So now we are on to unfinished business C, the administration proposal for K-12 approach to social justice curricula and accountability. And I believe that's Michaela.
I'll start. Can we confirm that Michaela's here?
Yep. I did admit her.
I'm here. My internet is a little bit unstable, but I'm here.
Okay. So we don't have a specific curriculum to present tonight, but as a school district, we have made a commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. We're building structures in our school system through teacher leader programs and the addition of a diversity, equity, and inclusion coach for next school year. Each school has made a commitment to dedicate time at staff meetings, continuing to refine skills so that diversity, equity, and inclusion and social justice is reflected in all of our classes and all of our teaching. So that's the framework to start the discussion, and then Michaela is here with some teacher leaders to share some of the specifics of the work and the leadership that they have provided our school district. And then in closing, I've included a document of all of the activities of this school year in each of our schools up till the month of March. And I have hard copies that I'll hand out, and I believe that's the last slide of tonight's slideshow as well. So Michaela, turn it over to you and the team.
Thank you. I'm wondering if I should, I think that because everyone keeps freezing for me, that I shouldn't try to share my screen. And I can maybe just, I don't know, would I send it to you, Wendy, or send it the slideshow to the board? Is that all right with people?
Would you? That would be great. Thank you.
Okay, because I'm worried about, because everybody keeps freezing every now and then. I just want to keep it simple. So just thinking about where we're headed, and our goal is to integrate equity and social justice into all explicit and implicit curricula. This means teaching the analytical skills and questioning the world we live in, our processes and systems, questioning ourselves and each other to build a strong community. And so in that vein, when I talk about explicit curriculum, what I mean is the actual curriculum itself, the classes. And when I talk about implicit curriculum, I'm talking about everything else. Everything else that happens in schools sends a message. And so what Mr. Spino was talking about in the opening is our ability to build capacity in the teachers is part of both of those pieces, part of our ability to both explicitly teach equity and social justice and implicitly have it in all of our schools. Sorry, I was just trying to mute for background noise. So in terms of explicit curriculum, what's actually happening is, like I said before, building capacity in teachers to implement and design social justice curricula, including inventories and assessments. We're starting the teaching for social justice standards and that framework to bolster what's already happening in the classroom, and using an established peer observation framework for social justice curriculum implementation. And so these are all things that are in the works and the path that we're on. And you'll hear more about where each school is and the progress that we made over the years. I think that one of the things that sometimes gets eclipsed for us is that this has been a multi-year process to get where we are with teacher leaders, with even looking at using a common set of outcomes for all the schools, and that's the direction that we're going in. So in order to get to the place where we have a unified equity and social justice framework for all the schools. And so and really making sure that it's unified. And the other piece is the implicit, and part of that is our restorative and transformative, hopefully soon, practices that are happening in many of our schools. That includes student-led circles and our nascent district-wide faculty and staff program, so restorative justice for faculty and staff, which we're starting right now. That also includes the diversity equity committees. Every school has one, and bolstering their capacity to support staff as they move towards more implementation of curriculum is on our list. There are affinity groups at almost every school, and affinity groups for kids, for youth. In addition to that, we have district-wide and school-based study groups and PLCs for faculty and staff. And at times we've had community for families. So right now we have the families and caregivers for equity group, and we're starting a series on talking about race and racial violence that begins at the end of this month and is open to all families in the district. That'll be held for the next 3 months. So with that said, we'll have some teacher leaders here who are going to give some insight into the changes that have taken place since they began their positions. Sandy, do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Sandy Stark, and I work for Early Education Services, and we have Head Start and Early Head Start programming, as well as we are the Parent-Child Center for our region. My role at Early Education Services is I am the Parent-Child Center coordinator, and I am a teacher leader, and I'm also joined here today by Christina Kowalik, who is also the other teacher leader. I, again, work for the Parent-Child Center part of the program, and Christina is a Head Start teacher at our Canal Street School. I don't know if Christina, if you want to just say hi.
Hello.
So Christina, I was just going to go through some things, but please interject wherever you would like to, as far as things that you would like to share too. So we started our DEC at EES later than a lot of the other schools. It was spring of 2020 when we started. We created our DEC committee, and our first step was recruiting staff. The first thing we did was we started discussing and reading a book called My Grandmother's Hands, which is a book on racial trauma. From there, we did a training on that book and discussion with staff. And then as time went on, we started to do more trainings with staff and incorporated discussion and updates in monthly staff meetings on what the DEC was doing, and just made it more a part of the culture at EES. And I do think that we gradually become more visible, and I feel like we are making some strides towards increasing awareness among the staff, which is definitely our first goal. We have incorporated goals, diversity and equity goals within our strategic plan. And this summer, we're going to be, I'm not going to be involved in this, Christina is, we're going to be talking with education staff about incorporating the social justice standards into the curriculum. And I don't know if Christina, you wanted to mention something about that.
Sure. So the new social justice standards that are rolling out and we're currently working on as a district-wide DEC, we're going to, for the sake of being on the same page, Early Education Services is going to be adapting them to infant, toddler, and preschool age so that we're all on the same page when the little guys get to the main school district, kindergarten up. So I think that's a good step for us to kind of work together and build up the Diversity and Equity Committee school district wide through our little branch of the district.
So I don't know, I think that's about it. Like I had mentioned, I think we are becoming more visible and our work is more visible, and we do feel like there is some more awareness around diversity, equity, and social justice issues within our organization since we created our DEC. So I feel like we're making some progress, somewhat slow, but it's coming along. And another thing I wanted to mention is that we've definitely increased the number of resources available to our staff. There's books that have been given out to each classroom. There's also a library of books and resources for staff to access, and also a folder that a lot of things are, a public folder that all staff can look at. There's lots of videos, documents, resources for them in that shared folder. Christine, is there anything else that we should add or?
No, I just think that our focus on the curriculum is kind of getting teachers on board and being more conscious with how they're teaching and be more precise on how they're teaching certain things and just become more aware of themselves teaching in an anti-bias education form. So that's what we do at the little guys end.
Can I jump in for a second?
Sure.
Yeah, go for it, Deb.
We also did an all-staff training in January with Kari Smith on gender diversity or gender identity, and that was for everyone. It was well received.
And she's great. I highly recommend her if anyone wanted to have her do a training. She was fantastic. And that video that we watched, Ed, that you recommended was also really great, which was called Gender Revolution.
Yep, Katie Couric, Gender Revolution.
So I guess that's it for the DEC at EES. Thank you.
I'd be happy to go next because my name is Anne Kaplan-Kalair and I live in Brattleboro and I teach currently at BAMS at the middle school. But over the first kind of year and a half of the pandemic, I was actually working at EES as well. So I've been a co-leader, a co-coordinator of the of the DEC at EES. So I've worked with diversity and equity at early education services, and now I'm back to working at the middle school, and I've worked in the district for over 12 years. I did a social justice focused master's and teaching program, the Spark program that's based in Brattleboro, and have been incorporating that in different ways into my teaching. So it's been interesting to watch the role of the Diversity Equity Committee shift over the last 10 to 12 years. And I would say from when I did my thesis at SIT around Eurocentrism in the curriculum and looking at just the materials that teachers are using and teachers' perceptions of how they use the materials that they're using in their classroom. I'm talking to the school board. This is my 4-year-old. And I feel like there has been a shift just in terms of teachers' general awareness of issues of diversity and equity and also their internal work. And especially in the last couple of years, now that we have the teacher leaders and solid diversity equity committees throughout the district at each of the different sites. And I think that's been a big shift thanks to Michaela and the broadening of the diversity equity program throughout the district. And I do feel like we definitely have steps that we can still be taking. For example, the BAMS DEC only really consists of about 3 people at this point. And so it would be great to expand that a little further. But I have seen that schools throughout the district are more regularly, sometimes as frequently as once a month, leading staff meetings. And then we also have meetings among the teacher leaders throughout the district. And so we're able to coordinate, again, like folks were talking about with the social justice standards. And that's one of the directions that BAMS is hopefully leading the way in terms of adopting some of those standards and integrating them into what we're doing. And not just in social studies, which I happen to teach, but also throughout advisory and other core classes. So was there anything else in particular that you wanted us to speak to, Michaela?
No, that's beautiful. Thank you.
Great. Happy to pass it to whoever's ready to go next.
I can go next. I'm Mike Sostak from, and I'm the Restorative Justice Coordinator at BUHS. And also one of the teacher leaders, along with John Kersey. One of the physical things we did, I just like to mention because we're proud of it. We created what I'm going to refer to as a wall of honor at BUHS, where it's right near, just as you come in the front doors of the school. And there are 18 large posters of BIPOC people who we wanted to honor. And so they're hanging on the wall. And one of those is one of our graduates of BUHS. And so there's these posters, of people, along with bios that we wrote of each of those people. Our DEC at BUHS, we've been in existence for a little over 2 years. We have 12 members and we meet every other week. We also at BUHS, related to, Michaela mentioned restorative justice. We've had our restorative justice program at BUHS has been in existence for 16 years now, and that's the longest running program in any high school in Vermont. We also had something that's fairly unique in Vermont, and that is that we had what we referred to as a student panel, where students were actually running restorative sessions. That got curtailed during COVID. We couldn't keep that going very well, but we've reinstituted it now, so that's back up and running. We also last year, again, focused on training for our staff and our teachers. So we did 3 training sessions, which we called critical consciousness, which we developed ourselves, the teacher leaders did. And we ran those 3 sessions, which really focused on looking at ourselves, what we're bringing into the classroom, and how that's impacting kids. And this year, we're focusing on what we're calling Implicit Association, which is more looking at what we do as teachers, how we impact kids, and what are kids bringing into the classroom that might be affected by things that we say or do, and sort of triggering things that in the past have been experiences for kids. So that's what we're focusing on now, and we'll be running those. We're developing those sessions now, and we're going to be running those sessions in May and in June. So that's kind of summary of what we're doing at BUHS. Thank you.
Eileen, do you want to go?
Hello. I'm Eileen Parks. I'm the librarian at Academy School, and I'm here tonight representing my team, which consists of myself, Sarah Kaltenbaugh, our 6th grade teacher, and Anna Ocasio, our counselor. So we have always been the teacher leaders at Academy, and so it's been 3 years now. And the changes that we're seeing with this work is that there is an expectation at staff meetings that this topic will be covered. Incidentally, we coordinated with the other teacher leaders, and it wasn't our idea, but we benefited from this idea of doing all the work back to back. So we focused on it for a specific length of time. We have 2 more meetings that, again, we have very fulsome participation in now, and we've just really cut a lot of ice in terms of staff meetings. So the final 2 will be an anti-racist training that'll be for faculty. So that's what we've seen change on the staff level. As far as like school-wide, the biggest change is that we have had a school-wide event, Black Lives Matter at School, for the first time, and that multiple grades participated in. The student leadership team made videos for anyone in the school to play during morning meeting, reading a book from the final thing I want to talk about is in terms of changes is the influx, and I love this as a librarian, of so much literature that is pervasive in the school now, that we're becoming very familiar with new titles, and the children are really, really enjoying that. And we're using it like big buddy, little buddy type of events that go around the school. So multiple grades are participating. We have lots of new literature. And so those are the changes that we've had. Like, it's more pervasive in our schools, what I would say is the biggest change. And if I didn't know if Sarah or Anna is on, they can pop in and talk if they'd like as well. Thanks.
No, I don't see them. Do you have anything else to add? Eileen, are you good?
Yeah, I forgot to add one thing. It's something that I'm doing with the whole 5th grade. I'm reading Stamped for Kids. So it is the most streamlined version of Jason Reynolds, or ultimately Ibram X. Kendi's book, Stamped from the beginning. And it's going really well. And I think we're going to have some amazing discussions. I'm using the study guide as I go along with that. So that's that's definitely a change to do a read aloud with that. Thanks.
Kelly, you have something? I saw you unmute.
Yeah, thanks. I just wanted to add that it's been a really exciting and interesting experience to have so many newcomers from Afghanistan join our community as well. As of yesterday, we're up to 13 new students, K through 6. And we have a welcoming library set up in the school library. Maybe Eileen can talk a little bit about that, but there's just a lot of resources available for staff and for kids. And I'm really proud of the way that our community has wrapped around these new students and families of ours and embraced them and embraced teaching them about our culture as well as learning about theirs. So that's just something exciting I wanted to make sure we shared.
Thanks everyone so far. Shannon, do you want to go?
Sure.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Shannon Kelly, she, her. I am currently a 6th grade teacher at Green Street, and I am a diversity equity teacher leader with Tracy Benet Perrin, our school counselor. And there's a lot of exciting work happening at Green Street, and that has been happening over the last few years. This year, our school-based committee is leading different PLCs for groups of teachers based on their interest. For example, I'm co-facilitating one on gender and sexuality with a group of teachers. And I'm just so impressed by the staff's level of engagement and commitment to the work we're doing. I think teachers in general are, as my dad would say, up to their ears all the time and pretty burnt out, and just the energy and commitment to learning from our staff has been amazing. Like, I'm proud to say it feels like our school diversity and equity efforts have not lost momentum despite all of the challenges that we've been facing over the last couple of years. And one thing that I wanted to share is, over doing this work the last few years, one thing we were talking about this afternoon is what a change we're seeing in our students. So by teachers, teachers had some fear and trepidation that's like dissipating in terms of their level of comfort and having conversation with students about issues of gender, sexuality, race. And what we were discussing is we can see in even our youngest students that their like capacity and their understanding of the world really is influenced by the work that we're doing. So that's amazing. Like, just for example, as a 6th grade teacher, like, my 6th graders are so respectful of people's pronouns, and they, correct themselves if they make a mistake. They will like correct other people and support each other in that. And so there are other examples too of just our students being awesome. And yeah, next year I will be diversity, equity, inclusion coach for the district. So I did just want to circle back to the Teaching for Justice standards that we're going to be adopting. I'm looking forward to teaming up with teachers to look at these standards in relation to the work that they are already doing, and also looking for opportunities to weave in even more of the standards into their instruction. And lastly, I wanted to thank the board and thank all of the administrators for your support of us as a committee, because teaching for social justice is in danger in our country. Teaching the truth to students is becoming illegal in some states, and that's scary. So I just want to extend appreciation for the support of this work. And that is all.
Can I jump in with a quick connection? Just to follow up on what you were saying, Shannon, about seeing things build in students over the years. I have seen some of the middle schoolers coming in with a lot more awareness than I would say maybe even 5 or 10 years ago. And it's great to see as a district, the diversity equity work building on what elementary and middle schools are doing as students go through the grades. And I also forgot to mention that Mary Linney, who's our librarian, is also on our diversity equity committee for the middle school, as is Allison Pittman, who's one of our special educators. And just to circle back around to the board's commitment to anti-racism, which I feel like has been a really grounding piece of the work that we've been doing as a diversity equity committee in the district. So thanks again for being part of that.
Thank you so much. Myra, are you available?
Yes, I am here. So I am Myra Arteaga, the kindergarten teacher leader at GCS, along with fourth grade teacher Hillary Katz. And we've aimed to keep our staff engaged with our diversity and equity work. We've been reading a historical fiction novel, Homegoing, that has allowed us to explore topics such as intersectionality, generational trauma, to name a few. And we've continued to examine history, learn, and reflect on a personal and professional level. As a committee, we meet monthly to provide diversity and equity focused meeting for staff. We've expanded our social justice lending library and have included some discussion questions for families to have conversations with their children at home. We know we're on the right path when we see those reflections happening either by sharing in a small group or our drives home. And that's like staff when we talk about our conversations with our studies that we're doing. And I just want to echo Shannon's appreciation for your support, and a big thank you to Michaela for leading us in this important work. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other teacher leader here that I'm not seeing? Or in person in the room that I cannot see? Okay. Well, I want to thank you again and realize that what we're doing for some will say it's not enough. And I think because we're in such a difficult time, it might not feel like enough, but for sure we have our axe to the grindstone, and like people are really dedicated to doing this work. Of course, like anything else, there's room for improvement, but for sure, I think that we're on the right road. And one of the things that we're really working on, and this is what I talk about, the reason why we're not just adopting a curriculum is because we really need to have the capacity to analyze what we're doing in all aspects. And when we just adopt something, kind of, the whole cart, it's kind of like checking a box, like, oh, we did that. We do the social justice thing when we do X, Y, Z. Instead of that, we're trying to put ourselves in a position where we can examine everything we do and build ourselves up for the good of each other and for the kids, the children that we work with. And that's really the goal, not just to check a box. And so when something challenging happens, which it is gonna happen, that we really need to stay on the course and not do things that are performative. And I think that that's where we're headed right now, is that we're really focused on staying on the road that we're on, not rushing to do performative things because something happens, but really incorporating how do we address things that come up in our schools as they happen. And also thinking about that equity and social justice is about things that you can see. And I mean, I would love to turn on my camera so you could see me, but I'm scared you'll freeze. But that if you look at me as a Black woman, that's part of me. Like, and I bring all that parts of me to my job, but I'm also a teacher, I'm a learner. And so that part of this social justice work is thinking of ourselves as learners, looking at our students as teachers and learners as well, because we're in a reciprocal relationship with them. And that also is social justice. It's not about doom and gloom in the world. It's about lifting each other up. And I appreciate Kelly talking about the people who have joined us, so many from all over. I mean, we have people coming from New Jersey, we have people coming from Afghanistan. Like, we welcome them all. And It just makes our community richer, and we just need to be in a position to welcome them with open arms and be ready to look at ourselves when we mess up and to say, I'm sorry, and fix it. If anyone has any questions, yeah, let us know.
Are there any questions from Michaela or any of the other teachers? Anyone?
I just had a quick question. I really enjoyed the presentation. I think it's really impressive. Michaela, you used the word, we're not rushing to do performative things, and I just want to understand what does that mean? I understand you're taking, you know, very deliberative steps to make sure you're building a program that's impactful, and I really appreciated all the goals and the you know, the objectives, but I didn't understand what that meant.
Performative things are things that look good, but may not have substance to them. Can you hear me?
Yep.
So I can't think of an example off the top of my head, but it's sometimes it's work that ends up lacking depth. You know, it's kind of like last night when I just gave my kid a lollipop because they keep bugging me, and just like, just take it because you're asking for it. Here, let me give it to you. And it's just like really basic. And so our hope is that we're reaching kind of deeper to address the things that we see and to get in front of things that we want to change. Does that make sense?
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Thanks for clarifying.
Someone on.
Jamie had a hand up, but she's put it down now, so.
Okay.
Oh, it's back up.
Okay.
Go ahead, Jamie.
I just, after being in this district for 4 years as a mom, it's just amazing to watch you all and to hear everything you're saying and the inspiration and the hope that you give me to do this work with my children and in our family. I just want to say thank you. It's really inspiring.
Okay, any more questions or comments? Thank you, Michaela, and all the teachers for the work they've put in and the effort that you're making. It's definitely something that you enjoy and you have a passion for. So thank you. So now we'll move on to the Head Start Early Education Start Refunding application.
So that's me. Hello, everyone. Again, Deb Gass from EES. This is my annual request for your approval to submit our refunding application for serving 184 families throughout the district in Head Start and Early Head Start slots for a total of $3,081,634. And typically the application gives highlights of any expected changes. And I can tell you that it is a status quo application, basically a reflection of what was submitted last year, with a few changes that were created along the way that our Head Start federal office is well aware of. And those changes have to do with partnerships that we've revisited or reignited in the community. One with WSBA Nursery, and I'm very excited and happy to tell you that that's been going very well. We have 5 Head Start slots at WSBA. And the other is with the Mulberry Bush Learning Center. And we actually have a blend of 2 Early Head Start and 2 Head Start classrooms there. And I think we have 19 children that are in slots in that program. So this is an ask for your support. This was a proposal that was approved by Policy Council last week, and now it comes to you for your approval so that I can submit it when it is due on April 1st.
Wendy, did you get all the information you needed?
I think so. If not, I'll check with them.
Okay, so then, do we need a motion to approve the Head Start Early Education refunding application?
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
So it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor of approving the application, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Deb. Now, I believe we'll move on to public comment on non-agenda items. We're going to limit this to 10 minutes. Is there?
Hi.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
Jack?
No, I just didn't know if Kelly saw me because I'm right behind her. Go ahead.
I don't know, do we write it down from here?
Sure.
Okay. So, hi, I'm Lisa Ford. I'm representing the BUHS Leadership Council. Maybe, can I go?
Sure.
I'll turn around. You want to sit down? So, again, I'm representing the BUHS Leadership Council, which I'm on. And we met yesterday. And we had a student come to us with a concern, and we thought that it was a valid enough concern to bring to the board. And the concern was in regards to a communication she had received from a school board member. And so, we talked about it as a group. We had about 15 people there. Some people had been on school boards before. Our school psychologist, I believe, was there. They all felt that it was necessary to, inform the board of the communications. And unfortunately, the student wanted to be here to share it with you. She couldn't get a ride for lacrosse, so I'm here to share it with you.
Well, unfortunately, I'm not gonna be able to let you read that because it would be out of order. But I believe I sent you an email, so I hope you, at some point, I hope I sent it to the right email address. So, but, and hopefully it says what I'm gonna say now, which is that we can't allow there to be, there's always going to be times when people are not happy with things that school board members or people in the administration or really anyone anywhere. And so the proper protocol would be for you to communicate that in writing. You can send it to me as the chair, and you can include David. And we are a new board, both in terms of we have 2 wonderful new members, but also I'm a new in this position, so I'm learning the rules of the road and protocols and that sort of thing. And I think one of the things that we are going to be doing is we're going to be doing some trainings. It'll be new trainings for some people, it'll be refreshers for others. So maybe some of what you and the student are indicating.
It's the Leadership Council,
Okay,
honestly.
I apologize.
It's the whole group who really wanted to send the message that there is a professionalization that is needed in terms of messaging, because the same language that's used in this response is also all over Facebook.
I welcome you to send us that information and to and it will be addressed.
And it's, and frankly, it's, there are other school board members that are also going rogue on Facebook. And so I think the message from the Leadership Council, once again, is that there just needs to be a professionalization of the messaging. And like any board, there needs to be a clear, very professional, focused, and respectful. Because the student did not feel respected. And I think that's a message that
Well, I apologize for that, and again, please feel free to send me an email about anything, or even have that student.
Yeah, I didn't receive an email from you.
I sent it not shortly before the meeting, so you may not have gotten it, but I encourage you to send us an email.
Okay.
And we will. It's already in our sort of thoughts about the trainings and the different things that we need to do to make sure that we're representing the community well.
Yeah, it is very important, as it is, pretty standard with any board.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm gonna come here too.
Jackie.
I know, it's been so long, but not that long.
I had to write it down, but I'm going to keep it brief if I can. Thanks for letting me speak. Although I wasn't able to attend last week's SD and SU meetings in person, I was able to observe most of them via Zoom and watch what I missed afterwards. While it was clear that emotions were running extremely high at both meetings, I wanted to thank both Kelly and Michelle for opening up comment on two highly contentious topics. I realize how difficult those meetings were, and I'm so thankful for all of the work that I know you both put into your roles as new board chairs. You've taken on an enormous, selfless responsibility for our entire community, and I know that you have done so with the best of intentions and the very pure hearts that I know you to have. From the bottom of my heart, I thank you for the sacrifice of your own personal and family time and for bearing the very heavy burden of the stress that that entails. And I also want to acknowledge the harm that was done to so many community members who were not able to attend last Tuesday's forum, and to many who did manage to attend in person. 300 of us made it into the Zoom meeting, yet many more waited in frustration as the meeting maximum was reached. Those that did make it in were barred from full participation by the thunderous applause from the crowd. When my name was called, I was not able to hear it because of the noise level, and I did not get a chance to be called upon again. Paul Smith, I am so grateful to you for responding to the request of the folks on Zoom and asking the room for quiet. And I am deeply saddened by the fact that this request was refused by the folks in the room, and in fact, things became even rowdier after this request was made. Lana Dever, you called on all of us to be kind and considerate of one another. I appreciated your words, and although folks in attendance continued fueling the fire with ever-increasing volume, your words mattered so much to me and many others, and thank you for joining the board. Every single member of our community holds equal value, regardless of how we may find ourselves at odds over various issues. The folks who could attend in person had a massive advantage, and they most certainly used it, with even some of our administrators and teachers nodding, clapping, calling out, interrupting the board chair over and over, and staring down board members. While I realize that it's not a reasonable expectation for the entire public to behave in a courteous and professional manner in a meeting that was destined to be horribly divisive, I bristle at the fact that there were students in the room watching their role models participate in the literal drowning out of marginalized voices. I am left to wonder how many families and community members have spent time in the last week questioning whether their concerns matter to our district leadership, as I most certainly have questioned it. And I would strongly suggest that the district reach out to all families to reassure them that their voices do matter, even if they are not able to be the loudest people in the room. Thanks.
Do we have any other comments?
I'll sit in the hot seat. My name is Heather Small, I live in Putney. I had sent this email to the board last week, secondary to the meeting that we just referenced. Your choice about whether I read it or not. But my biggest thing is that there is a lack of knowledge even from senior members of this board as far as open meeting law and how that functions. There is a complete disregard for signed paperwork for things like the Southeast District Board Code of Ethics that was completely, excuse me, ignored in that meeting and all of the things that led up to that meeting having to happen. It is my hope that the people in charge take note of that. They're welcome to resign their positions. They're also very, very welcome to go through the trainings that VLTC has set up for boards so that they can learn how to communicate and how to conduct themselves as a board. I can't say that I was impressed. I was impressed, but not in a good way. I was really, really very disheartened. And that state statute was ignored. People with 3 and 4 years on the board had no care for the paperwork that they signed and how to conduct themselves. I guess that's my 2 cents, barring whether or not the email that was sent out to the board is read.
Well, if you've already sent it to the board, then I think that you've fulfilled that requirement.
So this is dated March 15th, and it's addressed to you, Ms. Young?
No,
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, if you've already emailed it to the board,
Then
then
you're all
you've
set
already.
with hearing it?
Yeah,
Okay,
no,
that's fine.
And we have less than 2 minutes left of the 10 minutes. So.
Okay, all right, well, thank you guys.
Thank you very much for your contribution.
Jamie has a hand up.
I'll let Jamie go. Okay, thank you.
Jamie, go ahead. Jamie?
Hey, I have a little one who's starting to have a temper tantrum, so I'm gonna try my best. I'm Jamie Comtois, Putney Central School. I wanted to just check in and ask if we could continue to work together to develop policy to address those of us who are under the CDC high risk category for having disproportionate outcomes for exposure to COVID. A group of us through the Putney Central School Leadership Council did a survey and we'll be presenting it to the board. There's really specific strategies that can help mitigate risk that we would like the board to consider. I've been looking at districts around the state. I've reached out to the Vermont Department of Health for support and guidance. And looking at really diverse ways that districts are addressing this. Several have delayed implementation of the mask optional policy until weather's warmer, so windows can be opened. There's lots of different strategies. At this point, we don't have any partnership with staff in our school to support our 8-year-old who has been taking his mask off every day, even though we've explained to him that we are in a situation where we really need his mask on. And he's been taking his mask off. So we don't have a staff member from 8:15 till 2:45 to support him. So I'd just like to ask that there's some really wonderful mitigation strategies that we've written up and that we continue to work together and collaborate to look for solutions, because disability rights is an equity issue. And I really want to honor and thank everyone on the board for their work to address this.
Thank you, Jamie. Nancy, did you want to?
It's okay. Hold on.
Okay, so then we move on to other unfinished business. A, administrative proposal for guidelines regarding policy C7, communications with administrators.
Mark, do you have anything, have you developed any guidelines or put together? You had talked about a couple of meetings ago about beginning that. This is kind of following up on that.
I don't have anything to physically present, but I think what we're leaning towards, David, is the form, a similar form to what we used with the Bratttown School District, and then adopting that as a school, as an entire school district. And that practice was once a month, we would formally present that written report from each school.
The PPEC and a bunch of individual members came up with which is what the document that came around today included. It's on the website from the meeting that was on the agenda. And there are a number of different things in there, so I encourage you to have a look at that and consider that as well. And I noticed that we today wound up with an organizational chart, which is really nice to see.
Yes.
Barb sent that around. Yeah, thank you. That's great.
Yes, thank you for that. So then, okay, so then we move on to sexual abuse investigation update.
Me too. We expect to meet with our investigator in the near future, and we'll provide an update at that time. This afternoon, we had a request for extensive documentation from the investigator, and Mark and Barb Nowakowski are going to get together tomorrow morning and try and figure out how to get that information to her. So that's our update at this time.
Anything from the board? Okay, it looks like there's a.
Probably Mindy.
Was there a question on Zoom?
Yeah, Mindy's got a question.
Okay.
Go ahead, Mindy.
Hi, I have a quick comment and then a question. And I'm Mindy Haskins Rogers. I'm an alum. I live in Northampton now. And I want to say that I watched the video of the masking forum. I've been here on a single issue, but I know from the beginning I've said that it's a culture that concerns me and the culture that allowed the sexual abuse to happen. And I felt very emotional when I watched that masking forum because what I witnessed were some very concerning things that just look like the same kind of culture that permitted this to go on for so long. Because honestly, in all of the stories that I've heard, there were always people who told, always people who tried to tell. And they were shut down, and sometimes they were bullied, and sometimes they were ignored. And so there were just some things I saw in the meeting, like a principal joking and implying to a child that the rule would be either not enforced or enforced arbitrarily, and people asking for compassion and just being shut down and drowned out because they weren't expressing the majority's viewpoint. And I just want to say that, without laying it on too heavy, I'm really pleased to hear all the work that's being done on diversity and equity in the district. And I believe that there's a lot of really good intent. But the things that I witnessed in that forum don't look very different to me. And it really highlights for me the reasons that some of us had such very, very different experiences in those WSESD schools. I see people who talk about all those good teachers and the great education they got, and they're nostalgic for the experiences they had in the sports department, in the athletic department. And there are a lot of people who don't share those warm feelings. And I think that in addition to the really positive work that's being done on diversity and equity, it would be really good to examine those patterns that look like bullying. It really looked like bullying, and really signaling to the kids that if your opinion aligns with the whim of the administrator, then maybe the rules won't be enforced for you. And this, I understand emotions are really high, but I just want to say that I was moved and upset by that, and really grateful that the experience I had here in our district, witnessing the masking debate, which had a completely different outcome, by the way, but that it went so differently and it was so civil. I felt like, oh, at least for now, my family is safe. And I don't think that meeting, that forum relayed a real sense of safety. That the kids, it's not trauma informed to relay that kind of arbitrary behavior and bullying behavior by the adults. So I just wanted to say that. But thank you, David, for responding to my email. My question was just if actually a message has gone out to students and caregivers hopefully from Attorney Goddard's office, but are they aware that they've been invited to report any incidents of concern?
Maybe Mark has it. Do you have an answer?
Not aware of that.
Okay. Well, thank you.
But I know there's a website, correct? An anonymous website
There is.
that's been publicized.
My request was just that that if it's sent out to students and caregivers, that the messaging regarding the investigation come from Attorney Goddard or the board, and not from the actual administration and the employees of the district, because students and caregivers need to be even the perception of the possibility of bias from administrators could really stifle reporting. I'm hearing from people that they're afraid of retaliation against their current students if they report. So if it's possible for any messaging about the investigation to come either from Attorney Goddard's office or from the board, I think that would really, really help. Thank you.
Thank you, Mindy. So then I guess we'll move on to the recruitment of diverse candidates for employment.
And this is the last thing left over from the agendas when I was chair. This was the following meeting of the Social Justice Committee, and there was a long conversation about recruitment efforts. A lot of ideas were generated, and that also is in a document that is on the website from the March 8th meeting. And we noticed that there was a question on the advertisement for the Putney principal position that got to the candidate's experience in terms of social justice issues, and it was nice to see that change. And so the committee would like for the board to ask for a report on recent developments in our recruiting efforts. And also, we talked a lot of just basically what's changed over the last year or so. And also, we have heard, and I know the legislature is considering adding some incentives for people moving to the state. And we'd like to have a report on the range of incentives that are available and see if we can find a way to include that in our advertisements to help attract people, to have people consider coming to Vermont. We hear a lot of things and everybody seems like they know about this or that, but we like to have the real exploration done and find out what really is available. So I guess I'd ask for a motion to ask the administration to report on recent developments in our recruiting efforts and to report on the range of incentives available through the state and elsewhere.
Is there a second?
I second.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Could you ask Mr. Schultz to send that to me via email, that motion?
Sure.
Thank you.
So that was David and Lana seconded.
Got it, thank you.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay.
This student here, well, I don't know what the process is.
Sure.
But is there time for questions? I don't know if you're taking any questions.
Well, I don't. What is the nature of the question?
Just how you went over what you're doing, or the sexual assault investigation, like that part. I just had a quick question.
Okay.
I just wasn't sure if I was supposed to butt in or not. What is like what is that investigation, or like this process that everyone's doing, or like the schools are doing, or that you're doing? What are they doing to help support and really like focus on the victims of the situation as well? Like, is there like, are they being offered like certain support? Are they being given resources that they can go to? Is there any sort of looking into how people can support the victims in these situations?
Yeah, when this information came to us, we got a lot of advice, and probably the most important advice was for us to get out of it and get professionals to take care of this, to not be involved, to not have the administration involved. And we found an investigator, and we employed her to provide a place for people to report. We also contacted the Women's Freedom Center and the Brattleboro Social Justice Center and asked them if they had supports, or if they could create safe, confidential settings for people to come and share their experiences. We knew we couldn't do that, and it wouldn't be right for the investigator to do that. But what and they have agreed, and I believe the Women's Freedom Center has a group now that does that is available, and if you contact them, they will connect you with that service, with that support. That was a really big part of what was the first thing we tried to get in place. It took months to get the investigator, but now we have the investigator as well. And when if a reporter calls or emails, the first thing that she does is explain that there is support available if you don't want to talk, or if you don't feel comfortable talking to her, and you just need support and you want to share your experience and get and maybe with other survivors to contact the Women's Crisis Center. And the second thing she does is explain the nature of confidentiality and to make sure that people understand that if they want this to remain confidential, it will remain confidential.
Do we have that website?
I'm sorry, Dan?
Could you give them their website? Do you have the address?
I have not in my pocket.
I wish I had it.
but we can certainly get it and you can send it on.
Thank you for your question. Now on to committee appointments. I just wanted to kind of touch base with people. I wasn't expecting there to be, we do have an executive session at 7:30 and I wanted to make sure there was enough time for everything. I just wanted to use this as a point to remind people to just look at what we have on the website and see if there's anything that you would like to join, contribute to, whatnot, and just let me know, and we can make, and be ready for the next meeting. I think we should make our decisions on what we're gonna, who's gonna do what on what committee, etc. So, yes.
I could give a little background on what we've done around recruitment, steps that we've taken.
Sure, that would be great.
So we've increased our publications. So School Spring continues to be, an essential source that we use. Also the Windham Southeast Supervisory Union website, the Brattleboro Reformer, the Commons, the Springfield Republican, the Boston Globe. So all those news outlets were used in the Putney Principal Search. And then we also advertised at National Alliance of Black Educators, Diversity in Education, nationjob.com, districtadministration.com, topschooljobs.org, Indeed, and Handshake. So trying to reach out as far as we can to get as many contacts with candidates. So pretty significant investment that we've put into advertising. And then coming up in a couple of weeks, through Michaela's work in collaboration with Stacy Musso, Human Resources Director, and John Gagnon has taken the lead from our admin team, we will be attending a diversity education job fair, virtual job fair. The actual fair, I think, is in Chicago. We'll be attending virtually. And I think I'd ask John maybe to tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. So the virtual fair is through Diversity in Education. And a shout out to Michaela. Stacy and I have been meeting and talking about this for a while. And so we've organized and we're in the process of setting up our virtual booth for the job fair and getting all those pieces in place. Today I met with Mark and many members of the admin team to go over last minute details, to secure contacts from the various schools that will be attending with Michaela and myself at the job fair on April 6th. And so we're reaching out, and this is our first venture into the virtual job fair world. So it is a bit of an experiment, and we're just casting a very wide net. Because if we rely on just what we've done in the past, well, then we're going to get the same results. So this is time for us to take action and to try different ventures and to really get our name out there, to let people know of all the good work that Michaela and the other teacher leaders spoke about tonight, and to show that we are a welcoming and inclusive community and that we do want people to be coming here. So big shout out to Michaela and to Stacy. And April 6th, we will be live from Chicago.
Yes.
Ann Kaplinka-Lair has a comment.
Okay.
I just wanted to confirm, I know at one point the Diversity Equity Committee at the district level had talked with the former superintendent about adding a question connected to diversity and equity to the School Spring application, and I just wanted to confirm that that's still happening and that's still the case.
Yes, it is.
Great, thank you.
Michaela has a hand up. Go ahead, Michaela.
Okay, thank you. I was trying to put my hand down, but I couldn't figure it out that quick. I just want to say that one of the things that, in addition that we talked about, is that it's not just about recruiting more people of color, people from diverse backgrounds, but it's also about retention. And so when I met with Mark Spino on Monday, or what day, I don't even know what day, I think it was Monday. We also talked about a statement from the Educators of Color Association, and he said that he would be willing to take that to the Superintendents Association. And I was wondering if that's something that we could also, that the board might also be willing to take to the VSBE, is that right? VSBE?
VSBA.
VSBA. If the board would be willing to take that to them. And basically it's a request for teachers of color and educators of color to have professional development days to be together, because we're such a, we're not such a populated state, that this has to be a regional and statewide effort. It can't just happen somehow in Brattleboro, that people are isolated, and that's often why they leave. And so there needs to be a sense of community that's built. And so we need everyone's support in order for that to happen. So I wanted to ask if it's going to the Superintendents Association, that hopefully that the board will be comfortable taking to the VSBA for endorsement as well.
I believe there was discussion in committee to minimize reliance on School Spring and increase reliance on asking for a CV and an application letter. And in that way, you might discover something that doesn't appear otherwise. There might be a fit or not a fit, but something rather interesting coming from a candidate. So that would only be evident if you actually had, you know, a statement of intent and a CV.
And we do require those.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Michaela, the Superintendents Association, the VSBA are good resources for that. But for getting the information to the actual employees of color, the Principals Association would be much more effective, because they're in the schools and they know where those people are. So if we're going to have a motion to do that, we should probably also figure out how to include the Principals Association. Or I'm not sure if you're asking for a motion or what action we should take other than ask the VSBA.
Oh, okay. I don't really know. I feel like you would know better in terms of like what I should ask for. Is it a motion to adopt? I can send you the document so you can look at it.
Great.
And then maybe you can figure out what's the best.
So I'm a member of the VPA Executive Council, and I'd be glad to bring that to our next meeting.
You got all the bases covered.
So now,
I have something else too.
Great.
I spoke to my colleague, who's the director of the CTE program for the AOE for CTE programs, and then I also spoke to the CTE director in Burlington, and they talked extensively about the fact that Burlington has discovered that they have not done well trying to hire diverse candidates. Sorry, I have to read it or I'm gonna mess it up. They've not done well at hiring diverse candidates by spreading a wide net. They've done much better growing their own from their own local community, because they have established roots and tend to stay. And that they feel that it's very important that we build people. They have found it's very important to build people up in their own community versus trying to recruit new people to the area who do not necessarily stay. So I'm only giving you that as for what it's worth. But I felt like if the Burlington School District was having a hard time recruiting and having diverse staff members stay, that it was probably going to be true for us. It was probably true for us as well. And they talked about community infrastructure not supporting not being there to support new people, but that by growing their own, they were trying to build that infrastructure to support new people.
Okay, thank you. Well, if there's, okay, we can move on to the administrative report.
I guess what I'll report out on tonight is the where we are in the principal process update in terms of the Putney principal search. We have narrowed down to a final list of candidates, and we'll have an extensive day of interviewing on Friday. We'll have panels from the community of Putney, including community members and parents, staff, and then a combination of board members, leadership council members, and members from central office, the administrative team. So we'll be going through a thorough afternoon of about 3 45-minute sessions with each candidate at each of those forums, with the goal of identifying the next instructional leader of Putney Central, which I will then bring to our next school board meeting. So a lot of work has gone into that, and we're at a good point. The faculty council of the school has really taken on a leadership role in the work that we've been doing. So it's been a collaborative effort, and excited to get to the end of this week and to identify who that next person is in that position, which, as we know, is a very vital position.
Thank you.
That's a good question. Do you know if you've had any success in attracting diverse candidates to that search?
We don't ask that specific question of candidates, so the answer I would say is no to that. We don't know. It's not actually a legal question that you can ask.
Right.
Okay. Then we'll move.
I have a question. Are the interviews, I'm just curious, are the interviews in person?
In person.
They are in person, that's a requirement.
No. Folks who are participating outside of the candidates who require Zoom, we are making that accommodation. But at this point in time, I believe it's all in person.
In person?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Then we will move on to the fiscal report. Frank, do you have anything for us?
We have a resignation.
Okay.
Hiring resignation.
We got a bunch.
Oh, okay, wonderful. Well, not wonderful, but
Usually I turn them over to the principal, but it's a long list, so I'll just read them. In terms of resignations, Matthew Bristol from Putney Central, PE teacher. Hannah Lidner Finley, a Dummerston kindergarten teacher. Shannon Kelly, Green Street School grade 6 teacher. Benjamin Lord, BUHS science teacher. Rachel Mangine, Green Street School art teacher. Robert Dechard, BAM's physical education teacher. Those are the resignations, and I also have new hires and a leave of absence. But do we want to start with that?
so do we have a motion to approve the individuals that Mark has listed off?
With regrets, so moved.
Do we have a second?
Second with regret.
Okay, we'll give it to Liz. All those in favor of accepting with regret the resignations as listed by Mark Spino, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
We have some new hires. Stacy Sawyer, Green Street School, grade 6. Rachel Mangine, BUHS, art. Carly Mottner, BUHS, math. Benjamin Webb, BUHS, science. And Shauna West, BUHS, counselor.
Okay, is there a motion to approve the individuals for hire as listed by Mark?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor of accepting the new hires as listed by Mark, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I have a question.
Sure.
Mark, do you know if we've had this last year more attrition than new hires? Are we losing ground here?
We are. So in this school year, Stacy, help me if I mess this up. We've had 48 resignations, 15 retirements in our school district. In our supervisory union, 19 resignations, 8 retirements. And then in Vernon Elementary School, 4 resignations, 1 retirement. It's 95 staff members.
And new hires?
I don't have that off the top of my head.
We got a ton of.
I think we have about 60 to 70 positions actively advertised for right now.
Well, that's reality.
Yep.
We're definitely feeling it. That's for sure.
Thanks to Tim for asking that question.
Tim, if it helps, there were 1,739 education jobs in Vermont open as of this afternoon on School Spring.
Deborah, did you have a question?
Yeah, so do you do exit interviews? Do you have a sense of why people are leaving, other than people who are retiring?
Go ahead, Stacy.
So we actually, previously have not been doing exit interviews.
Can you just talk
Sorry.
about, yeah.
Previously, we have not been doing exit interviews, but as of January 1st, yes, we have been. So anyone that is resigned or retired either has received exit interviews from me or will be before the end of the school year. It is not a requirement for them to complete them. We're just asking them to, and then those will be given to the superintendent to be reviewed, and we will go from there. But yeah, it was not done previously, yeah.
So even though this is new at this point, do you have a sense of a trend in terms of resignations?
I only got that one exit.
Okay. Not quite a trend. Okay. All right.
It's a strong trend.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sounds like you'd like to have that information when it's available.
Well, I think it's vital.
Yeah.
I think it's helpful, you know, especially if the numbers are going up, and this has been a particularly difficult 2-year period. People are exhausted, and yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Anecdotally, I'm sure we could all speak to reasons why some of our staff are leaving or changing positions. And it's, a lot of it has to do with the impact on, you know, COVID and what's happened and the stress that staff are feeling all around. It's not, you know, specific to Brattleboro, Vermont, for sure. But you know,
It's not specific to school.
It's not specific to school, and you know, some staff are just moving on and taking different positions to further their, you know. So it's a variety of things, but teaching is really, it's hard anyways, and this year has been the hardest for sure, and yeah, it's taken a toll.
I think educators get a lot of feedback, which is stressful. You know, this year has come with lots of changes in how we're operating and doing things, and you know, we get that feedback and we get those opinions, and that's been hard.
You know, I think to Nancy's point earlier, you know, the teacher shortage nationally, you know, it's a crisis, and to our discussion about the diversity of our candidates, which is another crisis nationally too. In conversations we were having last year with Stacy, there was a group meeting about this issue, of course remotely in the midst of, you know, the pandemic. We talked about that, you know, that idea of really working in our communities to really connect with students who are interested in education, and looking at the diversity of our community and seeing so many students who could see themselves as teachers, and then have the powerful experience of having grown up here and then become teachers here, which is something many teachers desire, right? Like it's true that frequently people will come back to their home communities to teach. And that work starts in middle school. You know, like we have students, we have, you know, a diverse group of students actually who we could be working with now, who, you know, fast forward 10 years, they could be teaching in our school. And I think this is gonna be a long-term problem, and I think we really need to be thinking long-term and strategically about that, and start working with young people about, here's this career, and here I see you in it. Because if you don't see yourself represented in that world of teaching, you're not likely to choose it. Right now, the national population of teachers looks like me, right, white and over 40. And, you know, that is the predominant, you know, demographic. And so if we want our teaching communities to look like the diversity of our communities, we need to start with our children now. And I think we really have a lot of exciting partnerships we could jump into, partnering with the Career Center and lots of community groups to work with students on that. For many of us, I think, who became educators, I start thinking about it for the first time in middle school. You know, I was part of some peer education group, and I would go into rooms and do some teaching, and we have some Dummerston School students doing that now, you know, in our pre-K and kindergarten. We have to do that because, you know, we really, I feel really so concerned because if we lose this, you know, it will cause long-term consequences, and it's not just us, but it's our issue as a community. So we have to own it and like work locally to solve it. And I think we could really start some really interesting programming around that for kids, and it would be fun. It would be really great.
Some of that's what I'm talking
happening.
about when I say grow your own.
Yeah, some of that's happening right now in the high school. You know, we have Dimensions in Social Change, which works with local elementary schools. Our students work with local elementary schools around social issues, which has been super effective. And then we also have a mentoring class where our kids go out and they mentor a youth in an elementary school for a period of time. So those have been two courses that, you know, as I talk to students in the mentoring program, a lot of them are saying, okay, now I'm gonna go be an elementary teacher. I want to be a high school teacher, but that's okay. They're going into education. And then the other piece of that, we've begun speaking with Keene State College to see if they'll work with us to do an arc of courses that would be dual credit courses. And if a student can successfully complete this arc of 3 or 4 courses, they would get some kind of preferential admission to Keene State, you know, which is a great local teacher college. So those are some things those, as Julianne said, that's going to be a process to do. That's going to be a long-term process. But, you know, right now, you know, our kids are going to Green Street and other schools, and it is so much fun to talk to them when they come back about the experience they're having with the kids. So there's some hope.
But that's long-term. It's hope long-term. And I would think there are individuals similar to my life experience. I made the shift in my mid-30s. And there may be people at this point, because of life circumstance, who are making shifts right now and perhaps also want to come to a more low-keyed environment. Although I don't know that Vermont is low-key, sorry. That's that. But I'm, at least for me, leaving Manhattan and coming here, it's a breath of fresh air. So, could I say that? Yes. All right. So I think that despite the Burlington report, the net still has to be spread wide. Narrow, but also wide.
Yes.
Sorry.
No, thank you very much. I'm going to suggest that we on this.
Leave of absence, yeah.
Okay, hold on. I'm going to request that we table this part of the discussion, which I think is really important, and I'm not sure what the other members of the board, but it's really exciting to hear about different things you're thinking of, even if it is long-term. But so until we get the report back on the recruiting efforts. And so you have a...
Yes, Chris Day, BOHS Assistant Principal, is requesting a 2-year leave of absence for military active duty.
All those is there a motion to approve Chris Day's 2-year leave of absence?
So,
Is there a second?
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposition? Okay. Thank you. We didn't get to the fiscal report. I don't know if there was one. Is that something we can take?
No report. I would just remind the board that Finance Committee typically meets the first meeting of the month before the regular meeting. Typically it's been at 5 o'clock. We'll reconvene at some point. But we had a great Finance Committee. Jackie is no longer on that committee, so Michelle, Sean, and Jackie, shepherd us through the budget development process. So typically we review it at a minimum every month, the year-to-date financial statement with the Finance Committee, and I have that on the website, so I would expect that would be part of the April meeting, and we can report on that.
Okay. So then I'm going to move that we go into executive session under.
the code of ethics.
Oh, I'm sorry, the Code of Ethics. I'm going to make the suggestion that people read it's on the SU website, read through it, and we can either sign it when we come back next time, or if you can slip down to the SU and sign the document down there. So then I'm going to.
Bart, did Barb give you a copy of that?
She did.
Yeah, if people want to, if people are familiar with it and want to sign it today, I'll be glad to take it down and drop it off tomorrow.
Thank you, David.
I only have one copy as a
Yeah, well,
reference.
we can all sign it.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Now
If anybody wants a copy, I can make copies for you here.
Thank you. Now I will move that we go into executive session. 1 VSA 313A3, the appointment or employment of public officer or employee, provided that the public body shall make a final decision to hire or appoint a public officer or employee in an open meeting and shall explain the reasons for its final decision during open meeting and invite Jackie Reynolds into the meeting.
Kelly, if Carrie's here, are you inviting Carrie Emmett on if she's in Zoom?
I didn't hear what you said.
No, we weren't inviting her.
Is everything?
Cool. Because of this board. We can talk about it in executive session.
Okay.
So,
So
is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor of going into executive session, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay, we are in executive session at 7:34.
So